back. We're going to have a 40-minute discussion here called Fireside Chat, Technology Investing in Alt Assets. So we have three speakers here. I kind of talked about this a little bit before the break, but we're going to talk about alternatives in the investment space, especially as interest has been growing for entertainers and business managers and managers in general are trying to keep up to speed with what is going on and what's being requested and how to access certain things. They're going to dive into the technology behind digital alternative investments and how to leverage them as a part of a broader portfolio. I'm sure that we're going to get into crypto and NFTs and things beyond that. We'll drop some links into the chat as we go also, so don't worry about jotting everything down. We'll do that. And let me introduce our moderator here, Julian Schubach. He is a vice president and wealth manager at ODI Financial. Julian publishes a decent amount online. We like to share it at Trusted Advisor, and we always appreciate your insight, Julian, into different things going on in this space and in others. Thank you for joining today, and I will turn the stage over to you and let you introduce our other two panelists.
Yeah, thanks so much, and appreciate everything you and Ariana did getting this together. For those who are new to Trusted Advisor, it's an amazing resource for industry professionals, especially those who are in the business management space. So if you haven't registered yet for membership, I encourage you to do so. You gain access to amazing resources and events like this. Let me introduce Ethan and Jacob. So Jacob Martin is the founder of JTM Tech Law and services clients at the intersection of blockchain tech, entertainment, and the law. He's worked with dozens of top creators, auction houses, and Fortune 500s as they enter the NFT space. As an aside, Jacob and I have worked together and collaborated on a bunch of clients, and we speak pretty much weekly. I could tell you he is the guy when it comes to crypto, tech, and NFT questions and navigation. So great to have him with us. Also have Ethan Jones, who's a New York City-based talent manager and business partner to comedian Zach Fox, screenwriter Alex Russell, and photographer Cam Hicks. His company, Elixr Global, was founded in 2010. He keeps a low profile online, but he writes a sporadic newsletter, Tools for Management, which is Tools for MGMT. And he not only independently represents talented creators, but he's also a great resource in this space. I only recently met Ethan, but I can tell right away he has amazing broad knowledge in this space. So I'd love to get the two of you going and tell us a little bit about some things that you're working on. So why don't we start, Jacob, with you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and some of the things that you're working on at JTM and a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be a fun topic we'll get into a little bit in a bit, but I had coffee with a fellow attorney this morning, and he was complaining about the returns on his personal portfolio over the last 12 months and asking me about my returns on my personal portfolio. And I was like, well, my traditional investments, they're up like, I don't know, 15, 20%. They've done all right. And he was like, why'd you call them your traditional investments? I said, because my alternative investments are up over 100x in the last 12 months. And he was like, can you send me to your advisor for that? And I was like, that's me and a bunch of degenerates on the internet collectively advising each other. So we can get more into that in a bit. But yeah, it's been cool. As an attorney, well, before I was an attorney, I raised some venture funding while in law school to try to build out like a wills and trust platform on smart contracts. So, imagine somebody dying, and instead of going to court for 2 years to see who gets what, it just automatically executes. So that's the same as, hopefully, music royalties at some point in the near future, album sales, collaboration agreements, like marketing, whatever, just automation and smart contracts. I care about that a lot and I have for a while. So now I'm kind of working where all of this intersects with art and entertainment, NFTs, blockchain, so we can get into it more, but that's the high level.
Got it. And Ethan, how about a little bit about you and Elixr?
Yeah, Julian, thanks for the intro. So I started Elixr in 2010, and for the first several years was promoting concerts and touring artists around the United States and then internationally in Europe. And I got into talent management and representation around 2015. And so currently I have a very small roster of clients, 3 in particular. And, really right now I've been focused on thinking through and experimenting with new funding structures for things like albums, comedy specials, TV shows, and movies. And those have largely been funded for the same way for decades, and that's really changing. And as a talent manager and business partner to these creators, really trying to hone in on like what I'm good at and what I'm interested in, and building more teams and partnerships around them to shore up my weaknesses and blind spots. So, really excited to meet you, Julian, and you as well, Jacob, and learn from your expertise as well.
So something I hear a lot from clients who are digital artists or even physical artists who, are photographers or painters is, how do I get into this alternative space? How do I get into the world of NFTs? How do I get my work online? What are the steps I need to take? Taxes, yada, yada, just keeps going and going. So before we really get into the three main things that we're going to talk about, tech, investing, and alternative assets, I'm curious what some good best practices are for some of these artists or the business managers who have multidisciplinary artists who want to kind of take that first step into the space. Are there a couple of steps that you think are important to take first before they start that journey?
Personally, it stands out to me that a lot of people who will try to teach you about NFTs or talk about NFTs, they don't actually know what they're doing for the most part. And so a really good question, I think, to ask others, and then a really good practice for yourself, would be ask to see their NFTs. Not necessarily things they've created, but what have they collected? Like, what do they own? And if they're like, oh, no, I don't have any NFTs. It's like, okay, cool. Then don't tell me anything about NFTs, because you clearly either don't know enough to be convicted, or don't believe in it, or don't care about it, right? Like, this isn't academia. This is like, it's innovation. So you're either taking part in innovation or you're not. And anytime I hear somebody talking about NFTs and they don't own any, it's just not that convicting. So, I would venture to say business managers as well, dabble, go figure out what a MetaMask wallet is yourself before you try to tell your talent to open one, right? Like, go get a hardware ledger wallet and figure out what it means to put crypto on a physical device. Like, some of these are just like base steps, and we should start there, not, ooh, I bet you could sell an album for X as an NFT. Because that requires then working backwards, like 12 steps. It should be like, what is an NFT? How does one get one? Why does one get one? Where are we going next? Okay, maybe we're going to do one. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, Jacob, honestly, I couldn't agree more with that. I think of it as like, spending an hour setting up a MetaMask wallet, struggling to get Ether into that wallet, and then actually transacting for the first time. That's probably like the single, probably like highest ROI hour that you can spend as someone who's entering the space. Honestly, it's like with crypto, you have to learn by doing. And I think an hour spent experimenting, putting a little bit of your own money and skin in the game in the mix, that's better than 100 hours spent scrolling Twitter and reading headlines as well, because it's like everyone is talking about what they're doing in the space. But really, I think as someone that works with talented people who need to be in the space, you have an obligation and a responsibility to actually be engaging in it yourself, for sure.
It took me and Julian only one conversation back in February of being like, oh, what are these, what are NFTs? How do we kind of work together? Where are we at? For Julian to text me 48 hours later, all right, screw it. I entered the Beeple raffle. Did you? And it's like, okay, good. You did it. You did it. You downloaded something, you signed up for something, you tried something, and that was February. And now we're looking at almost September, and Julian has owned NFTs and or at least dabbled with them for 7 months now, which makes him, I don't know, one of 1% of financial advisors in the country that have touched them. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's important for any of the entertainment professionals, whether you're a day-to-day manager, you're a media executive, you are, a business manager, an attorney, whatever it is, you have to have some understanding of what's going on in order to stay relevant moving forward over there in the future. So with that being said, what are some good resources that you recommend, whether it's, specific Discord servers? Ethan, something that you spoke about is DeFi orientation. So maybe the two of you just want to talk a little bit about some resources for business managers and other pros who really just want to get their feet wet to have an understanding of how to have these high-level conversations with their clients.
Right.
I think Gary Vee's team did a good job. I think honestly, like the most like high-end professional Fortune 500 built for executives at Budweiser or Disney or whatever, just as well as built for like 17-year-olds would be like Gary Vaynerchuk, like his team when they did how to get a MetaMask wallet, how to purchase Ethereum. Like they did like a month-long rollout right before his VFriends project launch back in May. And that's probably the least sophisticated, but like to the point, honestly, it's probably a good place to start. I don't know, Ethan, do you have like a better jumping out thing?
I thought the content that Gary's team created around getting started was excellent. Another one I'd recommend, and I'll type it in the chat as well, but that's DeFiorientation.xyz. And that's like an hour-long course created by this guy named Nat Eliason. And he shows you basically how to go from basically no sort of DeFi experience to like an hour later, you've got your MetaMask wallet set up, it's funded, you've made some initial transactions, whether like, you know, you're a protocol like Yearn or Alchemix or Compound. And I think that's a really good entry point as well, where it's like, it will literally just be an hour of your time. And Nat definitely has a gift for explaining things in a very clear way. So I think that's a really accessible place to get started too.
You know, there's been some peaks and valleys over the last year, not only in the NFT world, but in crypto and alternatives. So maybe you can just take us through what has led up to where we are now and how we got to where we are in this alternative universe and the hype around it, and where you think we're going over the next 6 to 12 months, and how people can best position themselves to be of value to their artistic clients. Listen, there's a lot of financial professionals, a lot of lawyers, a lot of business managers. So in order to retain clients and attract clients, you have to be able to kind of stay ahead of the curve. So where do you see us going? Kind of what's led us here to where we are now?
Jacob, please.
Oh, goodness. Okay. I had a friend say this to me recently, and I'm only comfortable saying it because he said it first, which is the metaverse, right? Whether that's Facebook's version or Sandbox or Decentraland or any of these digital locations with land and potential, digital potential, right? Like open world potential. It's still just a bunch of 34-year-old engineer bros that are like building it, buying it, hanging out in it, whatever. And until we onboard the masses, we're early. Like everything right now is still early. So if you get a relatively decent grasp and understanding now, it makes you one of the first like 300,000, 500,000 people in the world that are like actively competent on this stuff. And I personally believe that if mainstream artists and musicians don't figure this out quickly, then little Michaela and avatars and AI will figure this out, and they will be the digital entertainment in the metaverse. So instead of on-ramping mainstream artist X into a digital location and having, you know, imagine, let's go with someone who's no longer like a Michael Jackson world or Prince world, like in a digital location with like a hologram that can do concerts. Like at some point, that'll generate a lot of money. Like that could be interesting. And so basically what we've come from is engineers taking blockchain technology, putting art on it, a few artists like adopting that early, and having these like niche collectible groups to like, we've been in Christie's and Sotheby's and Phillips and like auctions multiple times at major auction houses with digital art on blockchain. So it is like definitely not a gimmick to touch it or mess with it at this point. And there was $20 million transacted on OpenSea last year. I think we're looking at like 15 billion transacted this year already in NFTs, maybe more. And this is still only between like 200,000 or 300,000 people purchasing, like altogether. So, I mean, we've come from tech nerds doing something interesting and novel to like full-blown high-end adoption, but we haven't hit mainstream adoption because mainstream doesn't understand Web3 yet, like casually. But I think that's where we're headed. Like, I think we're going to on-ramp. If this year we on-ramp 1 million people into NFTs, I think next year we on-ramp 50 million people into NFTs. And that's in-game assets, that's digital concerts, it's collectibles, it's everything. I don't know a better way to shorten or elongate that answer. There's a lot to that question.
Yeah, I think, it's low hundreds of thousands of people right now, but I mean, there's a very, very good chance that this space, sort of broadly defined as like crypto, collectibles, the metaverse, really becoming the underpinning of the entire entertainment industry. I mean, I think that's actually like the likely scenario. And it's going to feel like it's happening slowly, but then all of a sudden. And, at this point, it's like, now is the perfect time to start to build experience and expertise in this space because it takes time. Things take time to set up exchange accounts. And if you're trying to create a exchange account for like a business entity for one of your clients, I mean, that's a multi-week, sometimes a multi-month process. And you want them to be positioned in a way where they're going to be able to take advantage of this new world. And I mean, really, there's no better time to start than right now.
Stanley asked in the question box, what barriers do we think are involved in getting the masses to adopt? So I guess I'll just kick it off with being somebody who is fairly new to the crypto space and the NFT space over the last year. What I've heard from other people and what I experienced is that it's different than traditional assets or investing in traditional assets where you go to a Schwab or a TD Ameritrade, you type in your social security number and you're good. You link your checking account, you're done. You start buying stocks and bonds and ETFs and mutual funds. For me, I think it's people not knowing how to take that first step, which platform to go to, what's an exchange, what's a MetaMask, how do I link, how do I exchange coins, and what's the tax implications? There's just a lot. Do either of you have 1 or 2 bullet points for what you think is keeping more people from getting involved or what can be changed to make it easier for people to get involved?
Yeah, I think it's user interface. I think it's all just not sexy user interface. Like knowing when you're interacting with the blockchain or not interacting with the blockchain, like Web3 websites aren't clean and simple for the most part. The two theories that really stand out to me right now is A, mainstream adoption will come and people won't realize it's an NFT. Right? It'll be, hey, you bought this skin in this game, but also you can take it to the Facebook metaverse with you. Also, you can take it over here with you. Also, you can take it over there with you. Hey, by the way, you can sell it. And at no point did it matter that it was an NFT. It was just an in-game asset that wasn't limited, right? Like there's going to be marketing and framing around that. And then number 2, and if anyone here wants to try it out, I'm more than happy to help design it. I've been working on it a bit at a high level. I think concert ticketing is the most blatantly obvious. You cut out Ticketmaster, you cut out Stripe, you mint an NFT directly. That NFT is access into the show. You can airdrop people things, AKA if a digital wallet holds your NFT, you can literally say, we're sending everyone who holds this one of these like later, so whether that's access or merch or digital copy of whatever. Like
Jacob, just
those are the 2 that stand out to me.
Yeah, so to piggyback on that, I mean, you talk to really any artists or any promoter and the secondary market is killer because it's destroying everything. You look at an artist that might want to put their tickets up online for $25 for a seat, and then StubHub's going to come in, charge an absurd fee plus the additional cost that anybody's marking it up. So I think it's a really interesting use case for music, actually.
Totally.
I agree. I mean, as a ex-ticket broker, which is not something that I talk about that much, but I mean, you think about how big these businesses are with StubHub and just the secondary volume. I mean, you'll have like a sold-out show at Irving Plaza in New York or Madison Square Garden, and 40% of the tickets will then be resold on the secondary, and the artist is unable to capture any of that revenue at present. And so NFTs are really a perfect opportunity for ticketing. I mean, also want to highlight Nifty Gateway. And I think that they did back in February and March and April, I mean, a really important job in terms of bringing NFTs closer to the mainstream, where people were able to purchase NFTs with their credit card. And then once they had the NFTs within Nifty Gateway, they could then send it to their own Ethereum wallet. And so it is difficult to transact. I think that a killer app too is a mobile wallet. And I use both MetaMask and Rainbow as well. Rainbow is an iOS app, but it's not quite yet a seamless, perfect solution. A lot of things in crypto, you have to be in front of the computer to do it. And part of that is for security reasons as well. But I think the more mobile things can be, and again, going back to tickets, that's why it's a great example, the more mainstream adoption we'll see.
Let's talk about real use case for some clients, for, if business managers are in here. So we have the three main categories that you can consider who's making use of this alternative space. We have musicians, we have artists, and we have influencers. We've seen musicians like Kings of Leon and others using the NFT world not only to provide VIP one-on-one experiences, signed merch, tickets for your lifetime for whenever you go to a show, and even distributing records. What are some ways that maybe those different three categories of artists that people are managing in this group able to take advantage of this NFT and this alternative space in order to drive more revenue and make more money right now?
I think and we may have people in here tied to some of the artists who did this, so oops. But in January, February, March on Nifty Gateway, there was a mad dash of DJs who came and did NFTs. And it was a combination of them being bored out of their minds, and DJs already work with visuals for their concerts. So it made sense for these like concert vibe visuals to have a DJ like music set overlaid and then sell it as an NFT. And they made a lot of money. And they made far more money than they would have off of streams on Spotify. And they weren't able to tour at the time, so or do their residencies or whatever. The thing is, the people consuming NFTs so far, since it is still a relatively tight group, it's quite obvious when somebody shows up for like a cash grab, right? We're going to do this thing. We're going to put ourselves on the table as like, look at me, I'm a shiny object, I'm a celebrity or an influencer or a musician, buy my stuff. And then people buy their stuff and then they never talk to those people again, right? They don't treat it like a fan club. They don't treat it like something that they want to do or push forward. That hasn't gone super well. Most of those pieces of art or collectible or whatever have depreciated in value 10x. At the same time that other assets have gone down 90%. At the same time, plenty of other assets have gone up 10x from people who were actually intentionally involved. So I think musicians that are doing things focused around access, gated channels on your Discord, tighter kind of access to, only 500 people can enter this channel on this one Discord instead of 15 million people joining an Instagram live, right? And it's like stuff like that. People will pay for that, right? Like that's interesting. So it's maybe a cool collectible that's tied with access to private Discords, to certain concerts that only owners of this NFT can come to, or whatever, And I guess something I shared with Julian and Ethan recently is there's an artist. Sorry, I just had a weird thing happen outside. There's an artist that is a non-traditional artist. I guess we'd call him an indie artist. He's a friend of mine. And he has a Cryptopunk, and he goes by Spotty Wi-Fi. And it's like an internet persona, whatever. And he had this one rap song that he did. And he's engaged so much with other people in the NFT space that he did this sale of 3,000 rap albums. And it's one song on each album. And it's going to come with a physical vinyl that gets sent to your house. And out of the 3,000, he had like maybe 30 different album covers. and then like 10 or 15 different remixes. So he started adding like rarity, right? Like there's only one like this, there's 3 like this, there's 10 like this. Simple little mechanisms. But he sold out 3,000 of those at 0.03 ETH, which was $90 per that day. He sold 3,000 of them at $90 like that in like 2 minutes. That's a lot of money. Like he made a lot of money off of that. And I think the math that we did was he would have had to get 35 million streams on Spotify on that same music to have made that much money. Stuff like that for an indie artist is going to change the world, change their world for sure. Sorry if that was too long, but that's what I got.
I think also a really important and exciting distinction is like when an artist creates an NFT that can be owned by their fans, or creates a token that can be owned and traded by their fans. I mean, that's very different than, you know, subscribing to that artist on Patreon, right? Or some sort of recurring membership where it's like you're, as a fan, you're actually owning something, and your ownership in that can increase in value. And it's a way that you can really be like co-invested as a fan in the careers of your favorite artists. And also, I think, Julian, you talked about music. I mean, I think a lot about my comedian client who, you know, he has been banned from Twitter. He has been banned from Instagram on multiple occasions. And not to turn this into a discussion on like, you know, what's appropriate on those platforms or not. But I mean, I think the promise of crypto, being able to, as an artist, create something that can be owned by your fans and then provide gated access into a community that you can control, you know, that can't be turned off by Facebook or can't be turned off by Twitter at a moment's notice, where you can more directly control and own that relationship with your fans. I mean, I think that's honestly one of the most exciting things.
Yeah, and to bring it back, and again, I just want to focus on music a little bit, because just knowing the audience here, you know, think about, on one hand, you have those who sell at stadiums internationally, and then you have 99% of touring musicians that don't. You know, interestingly, you think of somebody like, for instance, there's a manager, and if your managers are in here, Andrew Gertler in Brooklyn, who's managing not only Fuocious, who's a big name in the NFT space, but also Shawn Mendes. And, you know, if Shawn Mendes is obviously able to sell out stadiums around the world, but just dropped a new single last week or the week before, you would think maybe somebody like that would have a huge benefit and a windfall of revenue by releasing corresponding NFTs, artwork, merch, and things that go along with your single or things that go along with your record to drive the value of what you're doing and be able to get more eyes on what you're doing. So that's for a big artist. A small artist that's, you know, just starting to get a name for themselves, being able to drop merch and different NFTs along with first, second, third singles, or even your first record deal, it just drives more eyes, drives more interest, gets you access to maybe a group of people that didn't know you existed before. So there's a lot of different ways that I've seen, at least with musicians, to be able to leverage NFTs to be able to drive additional revenue. Just a reminder for anybody, if you have any questions, you could put it into the question box there, and we'll try to get to it over the last few minutes. Maybe you can just go back here for a second, and you know, you brought up a Cryptopunk. So folks in here may have heard of it. They may have seen it. You know, you might have seen somebody's Instagram or Twitter handle is this weird pixelated Cryptopunk. So Jacob, I'll turn it over to you first. Can you just share a little bit about what's going on in that NFT space, the things that are making so much money for people that some of these influencers and artists, the business managers may have heard of? What are they? Why are they so hot? What's going on?
Well, it is this guy. That's my Cryptopunk, 2128. If you get an email from me or a text, this little guy comes up. I paid $3,000 for an NFT 2 months ago, a very specific thing.
To be fair,
it went up in
$3,000 for a JPEG file, right? Just
$3,000. Yeah. It went up in value very, very hard, very quickly, about 8 days. 8 days later, I traded it for a CryptoPunk straight across. The punk was worth like $44K at the time. Right now, the cheapest CryptoPunk on the market's $264,000. I paid $3,000 for mine, so I don't feel the weight of a $264,000 asset. But CryptoPunks specifically have essentially been tapped as like true internet culture, like archives of internet culture. They will be artifacts in museums forever. Visa bought one this week, which was insane. And it's not even necessarily a good thing for corporations to start buying them, other than to be like, well, okay, these are Basquiat's and Warhol's, and these will be bought by institutions. And one of my favorite kind of funny, stupid purchasers over the last month was Dan Bilzerian bought a punk. And Dan Bilzerian's like a crazy personality, like Hugh Hefner vibes, right? And he didn't even say anything when he bought it. It's not like, hey, look, I'm a celebrity, I bought this thing. But he bought a CryptoPunk that looks roughly like him and made that his profile picture. And that will likely stay with him forever. Like, they've become stores of internet culture and value in a way that it's not. Some people are buying them because they're going up in value and the goal is to sell. Some are buying them because it's a way to purchase legitimate internet culture, instant clout, instantly involved in the right. Like, you care about what's going on here, and it makes you look like you know what you're doing with Ethereum. Logan and Jake Paul both have stacks of CryptoPunks. Like, these are people who kind of got in on it early. They're born and raised in the internet, and Gary Vee has like 60 punks at this point. Like, this is, it's really fascinating, honestly. So over the last 2 months, CryptoPunks have gone from about 30K each to bordering on 300K each. And not to call it an asset class, you could if you wanted to, but really it's like this has now been tapped as like, all right, it's internet culture. We're not selling ours. We want more.
Well, I think you do need to call it an asset class. As a financial advisor, I'll tell you that it is just like physical art is. If you're going to buy a Basquiat, if you're going to buy a Picasso, if you're going to, buy a Rembrandt, whatever it is, you're buying a piece of art, not only to be able to participate and be a collector, but you want an ROI. You want to be able to grow what you've invested and be able to sell it in the future. I would say whether it's CryptoPunk, whether it's anything in the NFT space, whether it's from a musician, from an artist, from an influencer, yeah, you might want a piece of that internet culture. You want to collect it like a piece of physical art from the 20th century. It just happens to live on the blockchain, happens to live on your computer and not hang on your wall, right? And so not only are you able to be a collector and be a connoisseur and, an investor in art, but there's that real opportunity to grow your asset, and anything that you're able to buy to be able to have a return on your investment and grow it is an asset class. Whether it's, a gold watch, if it's a Rolex, if it's a punk, it doesn't matter. You're actually growing that base in your investment. Just to go back, you started the conversation by talking about traditional versus non-traditional assets. Right. So somebody said to you, how's your 401k doing? Or how's your general investing account doing versus how your NFT and crypto assets are doing? So obviously, it's been a great year. And the last couple of years have been great years in the crypto universe. And something that we've spoken about at length before is tax consequences of transacting crypto and different objects in the crypto world and on the blockchain. So something I just want to harp in on as being the financial advisor in this conversation is, remember, even if you are investing in the crypto space, it is important to still have traditional assets because of different things that come into play. So number one, if you're paying quarterly taxes, and business managers, you guys know all about this, it's hard coming up with that money from your clients every 3 months to pay the quarterlies or to pay a big tax bill at the end of the year. If your client is up 1,200% or 1,300% in their crypto portfolio, guess what? If they sell any of that, it's another taxable event. Now it's either ordinary income or long-term capital gains. So now not only are they paying their quarterlies, but after selling their crypto assets, there's another taxable event. So it's important to still have traditional assets on the side, whether it be cash, stocks, bonds, in a tax managed portfolio, to be able to pay off any bills or real estate, anything that you want to do. So there is a place for both to coexist. And I think it's important that artists who are interested in doing it, or business managers that want to help them or navigate them, is understand that there is a way for them to be able to live together and for your clients to be happy being able to do both. So Ethan and Jacob, Ethan, I'll turn it to you first.
Well, I guess the one thing I would say before we bounce is that I think purchasing an NFT at this point, I'm not buying NFTs that I believe are going down in value. So it's fair to say I'm looking at them as an asset class, whether it's art, whether it's collectible, whether it's whatever. But we've reached the point, I think, with certain assets such as Cryptopunks and a couple of others, maybe that we'll have to get into them, that it's not just the asset class that's being considered. It's the internet in general, right? The art, the internet, the culture, the cloud, the whatever it is that goes with it. It carries a lot of weight. It carries a lot of weight, right? And you can call it an investment, sure, but the goal would be not to sell it within 6 months anyways, right? Like it should be a long-term kind of view, but I think we've only got a few minutes. So
yeah, we're coming up on 5 minutes. So 2 last things. Number one was another question came in, which maybe we could just spend a minute or two on. And it was about, the carbon footprint of NFTs. And I think it's important to take a step back and separate out the carbon footprint of things like mining crypto assets versus minting of NFTs. Do either of you just want to spend a few seconds or a minute just talking about maybe the difference or how NFTs are coming into this in terms of, a green future and how we're able to limit our carbon footprint or the effect that it has?
Yeah, honestly, I'm a bit out of my depth there, but am actively following other blockchains that are using like proof of stake instead of proof of work, and where NFTs are available on like the Solana blockchain as well. That's something that I'm actively following, but it is a big consideration. And I think that artists have to consider like how their fans are going to react to them owning NFTs, creating NFTs and minting them. I think it's a huge consideration, but hopefully something that as it reaches mainstream adoption won't be as big of an issue.
Yeah, and the short version for me, I'm personally super jaded on this topic. If you want to buy an album that we're selling at Best Buy after the gas that went into the vehicle, after the jet that flew the thing from China to the truck that drove it to Best Buy, gas fees, right, carbon in general, are typically just involved in transacting in commerce in general. So looking at gas fees or like the carbon, whatever it is off of Ethereum, we can look at it as the microcosm of like, is there a carbon footprint? Yes. Is it an outlier as opposed to literally anything else? No. So I do think Tezos and Mir and Solana are potential future options, but I personally don't think Ethereum is prohibitive in any way other than a small group of people that scream about it all day long because it makes them feel better. And I'll stop there.
Got it. Okay, last thing to close this out. I'll let each of you go. Let us know the best way for business managers or any other professionals or artists to get in touch with you, where they can follow you on social media, and why they might reach out to you, what you're able to do to help them, and where you'd fit kind of in their ecosystem.
Yeah, so I'm lurking on Twitter at Ethan R. Jones. That's my username. I'm mostly there just to retweet my girlfriend's articles. You can reach me via email, ethan@elixrglobal.com. And as Julian mentioned, I do publish a sporadic newsletter, Tools for MGMT.com, that redirects to my Substack. I'd love to connect with you and find a time to chat and hear about what you're working on, what you're thinking through with your clients.
Yeah, and I have a cheeky title on Twitter. It's @the NFT attorney. That's not a thing. Nobody's the NFT attorney, but it's fun for marketing, and I work with a lot of NFTs and individuals. So you can find me on Twitter. My website is jtmtechlaw.com. That's got my email address, Calendly, LinkedIn, all the good stuff. So you can totally reach out. I'm, at this point, pretty busy. So if there's like a, hey, I just want to know more type stuff, I'm happy to send you resources. And then if a call makes sense, totally happy to hop on, see what's going on.
Great. So thanks both of you. If anybody wanted to reach out to me, it's julianschubach.com or odifinancial.com. Like Matthew said, I do a lot of publishing through Trusted Advisor and other resources talking about general financial planning for musicians, artists, and entertainers. If you're a business manager who wants to discuss how I'm able to help your clients, please feel free to reach out. And with that, thanks to both of you. And Matthew, we'll turn it back to you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I learned a lot. Always a pleasure to talk with the three of you. Thank you.